It has a number of objectives. It's not only UAPs, other issues. I think the big problem I've seen in dealing with them for the last 2 or 3 years or so is that there's not a select committee with subpoena power, which they have to get. They've been blocked by some of the bad actors in the Congress. And number two, they don't have the funding for a specialized staff. So you need a staff of people who can become expert in this area. And if not, you're not going to be able to know anything. So my experience there is that we'll go in with briefing materials that's dispositive evidence and proof and firsthand witnesses. Other people who are professional military and intelligence disinformation operatives go in and then gaslight them in another direction. So they, for the most part, these people in Congress mean well, but they don't know where the washroom is. They don't even know where the landscape is put out. So, and I don't see that changing. I know 3 years ago when I was brought into the Senate Intelligence Committee, SCIF, the Secure Compartmented Information Facility, where you do exchange sensitive and top secret information. Those guys who are at the top of Senate Intelligence and Armed Services investigating this hadn't not gotten anywhere. But the lead guy was told, you can spend 10 or 20% of your time on this. But his portfolio was oversight of CIA, NSA, National Reconnaissance Office that runs all the secret spy satellites. I mean, come on. You need a staff, 20, 30 people who drill down on all this evidence and get to the bottom of it. So it's not muscled up to the extent it has to be. So what I say is that they have two pathways here. They either get it done right, or at least they open up their inquiry to first-hand whistleblowers like Mr. Barber, and not bring in people who are second, third, and fourth and don't know anything, right? So the hearing they had a few months ago in the House, there was no one there who knew anything about the subject. They were all second-hand, third-hand, speculative, people who had been with NASA but didn't know anything. I knew a number of them. And I'm going, why are these people testifying? You want someone who's actually handled the craft, handled the bodies, been operational on a retrieval team, or even like Mr. Herrera, who came across this thing and almost lost his life by these thugs who said, look, we're going to mention this, you're dead. So now those are the people who need to be sworn in under oath. Now, the reason I say we have to have subpoena power is that if it's in the Congress, they can't force someone to come in, right, without a subpoena. They can invite people. But the really high value targets that I have on my list, they got to be subpoenaed. And then if they lie under oath to Congress, they got a problem. Now, the other pathway, which I think is more viable, would require executive orders from the president. And that would be under the executive branch and law enforcement. And law enforcement can compel without a subpoena. If you're brought in by a federal agent and asked about something and you lie, it's a felony, point blank. So the more efficient way to do this, in my opinion, would be the House and the Senate to investigate this, refer it to DOJ, because it's criminal activity. We can prove that. And then DOJ assigns to whatever divisions people to go out and do a proper investigation and pull people in and interrogate them, and if necessary, get warrants, no-knock warrants, and move into corporate locations and secret facilities that I have locations for, and they retrieve the evidence and proof. So that is something that could happen tonight if we could get executive orders from the president to do it. So that's what we're recommending. There are 5 executive orders we've given to them, and we'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Well, have you spoken to Trump personally about this?
I can't comment on the people I'm meeting with intimately right now.
Can neither confirm nor deny it.
Yeah, but okay. I'll just say that there are really good people around him that are trying to find out about this seriously and sincerely. And I think there's very promising they're very promising developments. If they can stay on track with getting the information and not be gaslit by the disinformation. Because for every person that will go in and give them the truth of what's going on, like Mr. Barber or Herrera, there'll be 10 that are actually counterintelligence and disinformation people gaslighting them. And that's the problem. And how do you have the discernment? Here's the problem. Very busy people, right? I'm busy as hell. I go 7 days a week, 20 hours a day at this point. But if you're the president or the chairman of Senate Intelligence or whatever it is, you've got 100 things a day you got to deal with. You have to have some people who are experts, who are trusted, who can drill down on this and unpack it, because it's way more complicated than anyone realizes. I mean, let's take an example of this. I mean, how wacky and complicated it is. You have one of the most famous UFO cases in history, Cash Mountain, right? You know, that case, for those of you who don't know, it's in this book that just came out. We'll go through that in a minute. Mm-hmm. And it was considered a near crash retrieval operation in outside Houston, north of Houston. And there were 3 people, a little boy, 5-year-old boy, and his mom and his aunt, driving along a highway. And this UFO comes out, descends out of the sky, very unstable, and all kinds of stuff coming out of it. And they were slathered in radioactive waste. And they suffered severe radiation poisoning, had to be hospitalized. And that whole area was sprayed. They had to dig up and redo that road twice because of the amount of radiation. I still think there's a ton of it out there. Now, that was in the, I think, early 80s, mid 80s, something like that, 40 years ago. What that actually was, now, of course, the UFO subculture, that aliens radiated the poor little boy. Well, not so fast. So we have an Air Force intelligence guy who is the principal investigator of that event that we have debriefed, and we have his testimony. And that was an ET craft that they were studying. They could not get the energy system to work. So they foolishly put on a portable nuclear power plant on it to get it going. And it was headed east out of Nevada, and was headed east, and it malfunctioned. It had a filter, some kind of circulatory filter system that ruptured and started spewing all this radioactive waste. And there were 4 human pilots on it trying to learn how this thing operated. But it was a non-human craft, yes, but the energy system and the pilots were humans trying to figure out how the thing worked. So this was one of these things that went bad. Now, you can imagine Air Force intelligence and others would love to have people think, oh, well, that was, the aliens did that to those poor people. That's one example of which there are thousands. So when they screw up like that, they're going to be happy to say, oh, the aliens did it. It's like if somebody farts and there's a baby in the room, oh, the baby farted, right? So, I'm sorry to be so crass, but the fact is that happens all the time in this subject. So you have to go to firsthand sources. Like in this case, we have the testimony of the PI, the principal investigator of that event. Now, that takes a lot of work. If you're just sort of a hobbyist on this, or you're someone in Congress who has 2 hours a week, or no, 2 hours a month to drill down on this, you're going to be in a lot of trouble very quickly, misinterpreting things. So I think the people have to insist, you're going to do this. It's a big story, biggest story in human history, frankly, and a huge national security issue. Got to do it right. Cannot do it halfway. Now, Congress so far doesn't have the tools to do that. They almost got them a little over a year ago. And there was the Senate passed a great bill that would have had an amnesty, safe harbor period for these whistleblowers we have. And, I have 760 plus whistleblowers. But we went over to the House for reconciliation. It was part of the defense funding bill, the National Defense Authorization Act. It was called NDAA. it went out of the provisions for amnesty or safe harbor were unanimously passed out of Senate Intelligence. And I actually helped with the folks who were putting that together quietly behind the scenes, writing it. And so it then went over to the House, passed the Senate, not unanimously, but overwhelmingly, went to the House, and there were some people who killed it. And there was Congressman Turner of the House Intelligence Committee and Mike Rogers of the Armed Services Committee in the House, and some other people killed that thing, ripped those provisions out, and stripped it of anything meaningful. So we then concluded, and I told Jake and other people who are, see, a lot of the guys I've been working with are sitting in the wings waiting for something to happen that protects them. They need legal protections because many of them have been in operations that are illegal. They need physical protection because there are wet works, assassination, targeted killings that have been authorized against people. And I know he has had someone on his team killed. I've had people on my team killed over the years. So until that happens, you're out here naked. We're uncovered. Very dangerous. So for people to expect all this to get dealt with, but gee, the government they haven't even figured out that there's lethal force used against high-value whistleblowers. Until that kind of gets through the Congress or an executive order. The president could do this with a stroke of the pen, no question. Absolutely. President has the power to authorize full investigation and DOJ to provide immunity or amnesty, and in other words, they have to come clean on everything, right? But that's what we're recommending because there's some very high-value whistleblowers who approached us who want to do it. But right now, we're not protecting them. And these people are patriotic. Like Jake and his guys are very patriotic.
Well, Elon Musk, Trump's new best friend.
I don't know him.
He's consistently said that he's never seen any signs of aliens or UFOs. And this is someone who regularly launches ships into space.
Well, it's not like he's on board those ships.
No.
And look, it's not as if every airline pilot has seen these, but there are many who have. There's one sitting in our room right here, all right? Captain of a major airline.
Wait. Hold on. So this person sitting next to us has seen what?
These UFOs while he's been flying his jets for a major airline.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you willing to jump in at some point and talk about it?
It's totally up to him. But
okay,
but,
hold on. Are you willing to talk about it? Sure. All right, we'll bring you in a little bit. Okay.
Look, I don't hang with just every idiot. Right?
Yeah. I mean, just me.
The people who just sort of hang in my orbit are going to be folks like that. That's right.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we'll get to that. So go on.
Where was I?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that he would have been read onto this or read into it. Now, whether he really has no knowledge of this, or